Super Smash Brothers. We all love Smash Brothers. It's the only game starring this many characters, locations, and music from dozens of iconic video game franchises. Since the Switch 2 is out, and Kirby Air Riders has wrapped up production, it means Sakurai, the eternally damned soul he is, could now work on his next project, and that is most likely Smash Brothers. Whether that be a brand new Smash 6 or a continuation of Ultimate via Switch 2 edition, I'm not sure yet, but I do know one thing. Everyone has a wish list for what they want to see, and I'm no different. This is my top 10 characters I want to see in the next Super Smash Bros. The criteria for this list is quite simple. Did I play the game the character's from? Did I like the game the character's from? Do I want to see that character in Smash Brothers? This is my list of my opinions, and it's that simple, so don't expect too many crowd pleasers. Now on to the list. Hailing from Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, Fire Emblem Thracia 776, Fire Emblem the Binding Blade, Fire Emblem the Blazing Blade, Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon again, Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem, Fire Emblem Awakening, Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Heroes, Fire Emblem Warriors, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Engage, and beyond, it's the Sly Saleswoman, Anna. Except for Gaiden in its remake, Shadows of Valentia, a version of Anna has made an appearance in every Fire Emblem game, and made her playable debut in Awakening as a special treat for longtime fans in the finale turned revival of the franchise. She has since been playable in every game since, typically the bonus unit you get from buying the DLC. In earlier games, she was characterized as playful, giving players access to all kinds of busted items if you find her secret shop, but in later games she's a hardcore capitalist always scheming for a quick buck. Her toolkit depends on the game, but she's used swords, levin swords, bows, staves, and axes, leaving a pretty wide assortment of movement potential. But inspired by Spendthrift and Fates, her main gimmick should be collecting money and cashing it out for extra damage and knockback. I think Anna would be a fun addition to the Fire Emblem cast, as she steps outside of the blue-haired lord archetype we typically see in Smash, and would be a timeless rep for the series, never falling out of relevancy. WarioWare is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, and the number one reason why is its cast of characters. I love them all, especially after Gold when the series got full voice acting, only making me wish it had its own cartoon series to see more of them. More than a cartoon series, I wish to see one of them get into Smash Bros. Hell, even Mario Kart if Smash is asking too much. There's lots of good options like Mona, 9-Volt, or Jimmy T, but my favorite is Ashley. Ashley has always been particularly popular thanks to her design, personality, and especially her theme song.
Don't let yourself be fooled by her innocent demeanor. You'd better be afraid of the great Ashley.
She was so popular that inexplicably she was everywhere during the Wii U and 3DS era, despite WarioWare being dormant at that time. 3 3DS themes, a mascot for Badge Arcade, crossovers with Monster Hunter, mascot of a convenience store chain, Rhythm Heaven cameos, and an assist trophy in Smash 4, and a Mii costume, alongside getting special treatment in her own series, like a minigame with a 3D model in WarioWare Gold. And don't forget the April Fool's prank, pitching Ashley getting her own spin-off game titled Crazy Galaxy, where Ashley and her new friends get lost in space. For a while, all of this hype got me expecting her to appear in Ultimate, much to my dismay when it didn't happen.
I love it!
Accomplish it, kills everyone.
Ashley
And
stole
an
assist trophy!
Wait, what?
Oh,
No!
Loser Caravan.
Hold up.
Overall, if WarioWare were ever to get expanded upon in Smash, I think it makes sense for Ashley to be its second character. I arbitrarily placed Octoling at number 8. Back in 2018, the year of the Octoling, it was too soon for them to be included in Smash Bros. As playable, as everything Splatoon related besides a few easy to implement stuff like music and spirits and Mii costumes were all based off of Splatoon 1. Octo expansion released the same year as Smash Ultimate and just did not make the cut. But now, 8 years later, the entire lifespan of both Splatoon 2 and 3 have passed, and in that time, Octolings have become base game features of the series and get equal representation in the franchise marketing. So I think they're a must-have to expand Splatoon's rep in Smash Bros. As for moveset potential, there's still so many main, sub, and special weapons to be pulled from that they'll still feel like a different character despite sharing the ink mechanic, although with a twist. Inkling's ink complements their combo game by increasing damage the more the enemy is inked. Meanwhile, for Octoling, it should increase knockback for the big kill. Main weapons will be 52 Gal, Octo Brush for the F Smash, Stringer for the up smash, neutral special will be the E leader, side special Splatana Stamper, down special Burst Bomb, Booyah Bomb for the final smash. Also, just like the Inklings, plenty of alt costume potential. I'm hoping stuff pulled from 2, 3, Octo expansion, stuff like that. Retro fighters have always had their spot in Smash, with Ice Climbers and Mr. Game Watch in Melee, Pit and Rob in Brawl, and Little Mac and Duck Hunt in Smash 4. Why stop there? If Kid Icarus is Metroid's sister series, then The Legend of Zelda's sister game was the mysterious Murasame Castle. This game takes Zelda 1's top-down format and turns it into a fast-paced action game. With infinitely spawning ninjas and projectiles all over the place, it asks a lot from the player. The main character of this game is a samurai named Takamaru. I was introduced to the series by its minor boost of representation in Smash 4. With its amazing remix and cool assist trophy, it got me to pick it up on the 3DS's Virtual Console when it dropped, and I've been fond of the series and Takamaru himself ever since. When it comes to a moveset, as a samurai, Takamaru will conduct his swordplay differently from the other swordies, and he'll have access to several projectiles and magic from the power-ups from his games. Most importantly, I imagine he'll be a potent anti-projectile character. As true to his game, he'll be able to reflect physical projectiles with his katana, not as a special, but in all of his normals, balanced out by odd reflect angles that don't immediately pose a threat in 1v1s, but could be fun in free-for-alls or doubles.
My name's Noah, Colony 9, Special Forces Unit. As you know, I'm an officer. These three, Lance, Uni, and Riku, are my long-term friends. Oh, and this is my passion. Someday I'd like to play my own melodies. Not just the same old music that I learned in training. Okay.
What is this? Feels like a surprise inspection or something.
It'll help in the long run.
Come on, man. Really?
I think it's safe to say Xenoblade Chronicles is Nintendo's greatest franchise, with 4 fantastic titles excelling in all categories with a growing dedicated following. It's found its place in Nintendo's catalog and will continue for a long time to come. Xenoblade 3 was a fantastic ending to the trilogy, With a heartbreaking story, excellent party of characters, addicting combat, and beautiful world to explore, this is why I believe Xenoblade 3 is more than deserves its place in Smash and stand alongside its predecessors, with Noah standing tall next to Shulk in the Aegis. Of course, a majority of his moveset will revolve around the use of his blade from his base sword fighter class. But the beauty of blades and the Ouroboros power in 3 is that Noah is able to effectively multi-class with abilities from his party members. So while most of his normals will revolve around the blade, more specialized attacks, like specials and smashes, can use all kinds of art. In conjunction with Xenoblade 3's other deuteragonist, Mio, they could combine into Noah's Ouroboros form as a transformation from a meter or a final smash. Being the protagonist of a JRPG also gives him special powers unique to him. So the other option is for Noah to have a meter that allows him to unsheath his blade and use Lucky 7 inside, which has the special power of being really, really sharp.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Well, this is what we're meant to do. To send on the voices of the departed is an Offseer's purpose.
I'm called Mio. I'm an Offseer in Colony Gamma's musical unit. I can do the 100 metri in 7 seconds. Pretty quick on my toes, I guess.
You go, girl.
And I keep a diary. I like writing down what happens. I never miss a single day.
I think it's safe to say Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the best Nintendo game of all time, so it should be obvious to everyone. Noah alone is not enough to satisfy me. Mio is just as, if not more important to the story of Xenoblade 3, so not including her would feel just as wrong as not having Rex. But unlike him, no hardware constraint should be in the way of tearing Noah and Mio apart again. Not this time at least. Unlike Noah, Mio's base class is the more unique dodge tank, the Zephyr, and fights with 2 twin rings, making her more agile and fights more up close. Same as Noah, the multi-class aspects of Xenoblade 3 can shine in too. While Noah will be pulling weapons from Agnian classes, Mio will Kavesi. She does not have an equivalent to Lucky 7, but she has her own Ouroboros form that might work better at the transformation than Noah, so perhaps Noah gets a meter to unleash Lucky 7, while Mio has a meter to transform into her Ouroboros form, so the two can have separate gimmicks. I want the two to mirror each other nicely, so I would like taunts and victory screens to match so they could stand side by side, off-seeing their just defeated opponents, which would be so in-character, cute, and hilarious at the same time. With the exception of Takamaru, I've mostly been talking about newcomers for series already in Smash, but the final 4 are all new. The only series on par with Xenoblade in Nintendo's catalog is Rhythm Heaven, and it's a crime it still hasn't received the recognition it deserves in Smash. As a big fan of the series, my choice isn't the Chorusman or Karate Joe. My choice comes from my favorite minigame in the series, Tap Trial. Girl, Tap Girl, Hakuko, Rhythm Troop, however you want to call her, is my choice for the role of playable character. I believe a character from Rhythm Heaven should be a character that at a glance has a music as a central theme, and a tap dancer is a perfect fit. Tap Girl's also a pretty generic design, making it pretty natural to perform any specific callbacks to any minigames for her moveset demands. Tap Girl's also closely linked to monkeys, who are really important to Rhythm Heaven's identity, as they're essentially the running gag of how many times monkeys play a role in a lot of the minigames. So I think it's appropriate for her to be accompanied by a monkey as well. As for moveset, I think it's pretty simple. Have Tap Girl perform various actions mimicking several minigames from the series: Jab, Karate Man, F-Tilt, Lockstep, D-Tilt, Space Dance, so on and so forth. The true core gimmick for Tap Girl is how her moveset is affected by the background music. Tap Girl will be vibing in time with the BGM, but that's not just a visual detail. If you attack your opponent in time with the music, Tap Girl's attacks will deal more damage, and if you can link several attacks in a row, the damage will grow. If the song is either too fast or too slow, Tap Girl's down special will either cut her internal rhythm to half time or speed it up to double time, giving the player control over how to make use of this subtle gimmick. You don't have to play in time with the music, but if you find a room where you can, it can prove very effective in racking up percent. If you'd have told me one of my new favorite Nintendo franchises would be an adventure mystery series that had been locked in Japan for 30 years, I would have believed you, because that shit is right up my alley. I first played these games last year with the 3 games on Switch: the remakes The Missing Heir, The Girl Who Stands Behind, and the brand new game Emio the Smiling Man. And they very quickly entered a specific part of my autistic brain where the property would not leave my head at all. I was thinking of it for days on end, even months after I finished playing through them. One of those thoughts, of course, was hoping for a representative to show up in Super Smash Bros., and I think it's very likely. For the past few years, Nintendo has been very interested in returning to the genre of Japanese adventure games by remaking the Another Code games and the original Famicom Detective Club games. Miyamoto himself expressed interest in Nintendo developing more of these games, and he wasn't lying, as later on they made a brand new game with Emio, so I think the next step to bring more attention to Nintendo's offerings of the genre is by putting a character from these games into Smash Bros. My first choice being the main heroine of the Famicom Detective Club series, Ayumi Tachibana. Ayumi is your assistant and fellow detective in these games. While not playable in The Missing Heir or The Girl Who Stands Behind, her popularity gave her her own, still exclusive to Japan title, BS Detective Club Lost Memories in the Snow. And in Emio the Smiling Man, you get to play as both the protagonist and Ayumi in investigations. Why her and not the protagonist is because the protagonist lacks a name, and he's designed more as a self-insert. Ayumi has a more definitive personality and more memorable design. As for moveset potential, she's got none. But that won't stop me from trying. Along the same lines as Phoenix Wright in Marvel vs. Capcom, creative liberties will need to be taken in making a fighter out of a character who doesn't fight. My thoughts on her specials will take inspiration from the command menu, how you interact with the world in these games. Neutral special will be look/examine, and will be a light beam from a magnifying glass. Side special is call/engage, a non-damaging move with long range that interrupts all attacks with a brief stun. Down special will be review, and is a counter where Ayumi will keep a note of the attack that hit her, and if she's hit again with it, it'll automatically trigger the counter that applies Sora's disarm effect. Other commands like think, use phone, and open notebook can be used for taunts. To round out Ayumi's moveset, she will receive assistance from the Girl Who Stands Behind, the urban legend that's the central focus of Ayumi's most iconic entry. The Girl Who Stands Behind will assist Ayumi in performing more outlandish attacks like her recovery and throws, and overall add a more creepy atmosphere to her moveset. I also want one of her victory animations to be her grading the performance of the loser, as a reference to how every FTC game grades your performance in the investigations. Before we get to the top 2, let me list off a few characters I also think would be neat to see in Smash. Impa from Age of Calamity was really cool, and I think seeing her quick Kodachi combat and her astral clones would be a lot of fun in Smash. Elma from Xenoblade Chronicles X. She doesn't have all 4 games repped in the game. She fights with guns and katanas. Should be fun to have. Hisuian Pokemon Trainer from Pokemon Legends Arceus. I love the original Pokemon Trainer, but I think there's room for another, but this time you get the fight as the trainer themselves, as the one from Legends Arceus often faces Pokemon head-on. Alear from Fire Emblem Engage. I didn't finish Engage, but its mechanics are a lot of fun to work with, and I think Alear with her martial arts, swords, and Engage abilities would be fun to fight with. Rex from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Give my boy some respect. Let's give him his Crom moment, and let us land a
Double spinning edge! 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 Chop-a-look!
Steamboat comes!
Chun-Li. It's as simple as I think the leading lady of fighting games deserves to be a part of the biggest fighting game crossover. Melia Antiqua. She's my favorite Xenoblade character. Star of her own epilogue campaign, and the party member with my favorite selection of arts, involving elemental summoning for buffs and special attacks. 2B from Nier Automata. I think she's neat, and has crossed over with both Soul Calibur and Grand Blue. Why not Smash Brothers? Laura and her blades Jin and Haze from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torn of the Golden Country. The blade system of Xenoblade 2 is so fucking fun. I want a true representation of that combat in Smash, so why not the 2 that originated it? Soul Bad Guy. I think Guilty Gear is a lot of fun. My main's Melia Rage and not Soul, but if anyone would get in, it would be Soul. A. Shulk Echo Fighter, but the main difference being the lack of the clamshell 2-part attacks for more consistency. Matthew. Cat from Gravity Rush. This shit is never happening. And Lita from Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, because she looked really cool in the trailer. She's a dancer who can fight, play guitar, and summon monsters, and fuck you! Holy shit! Holy shit! If you'd have told me one of my new favorite Nintendo franchises would be an adventure mystery series that had been locked in Japan for 30 years, I would have believed you, because that shit is right up my alley.
Time to bring it to an end.
And you know why that shit is right up my alley? Because my alley was paved with Ace of fucking Attorney. Ever since I first got into the series in 2016 with Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy on 3DS, I played all 6 mainline games, both spin-off series, its sister game Ghost Trick, the Professor Layton crossover, and Project X Zone 2. I fucking love Ace Attorney, and I want to see Phoenix Wright in Super Smash Bros. The appeal of having a guy like Phoenix in the game is that of having that one regular guy in a bucket full of weirdos trying his damnedest at staying sane. While comedy is one thing, the other side is how fucking cool he is when it's actually his time to bat. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 went above and beyond adapting the gameplay of Ace Attorney into a fighting game. You start in the back seat with no evidence, with nothing to fight with, but as you gain more evidence to present and finally land an objection, you become unstoppable for the comeback of the century with nothing standing between you and the truth. That's not all though. Have you heard about Peak? Phoenix Wright might be the face of the franchise, but he's not my favorite. That's Apollo, but I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about franchise Peak. The absolute best Ace Attorney has to offer actually belongs to Ryunosuke Naruhodo, Phoenix's ancestor and the protagonist of the great Ace Attorney. And I want Ryunosuke to be Phoenix's Echo Fighter. Unlike Edgeworth, whose personality doesn't fit as a Phoenix clone, or Apollo, who doesn't match, Ryunosuke is perfect for the task. Plus, I think he and Susato have their own quirks and animations to do similar attacks with different flair. And I want the Ace Attorney stage to have a variation for all three eras, like the classic courtroom of the Phoenix Wright trilogy, the ruined courtroom from Dual Destinies to Rev Apollo's trilogy, and the Old Bailey from the Great Ace Attorney for Ryunosuke. And also I want Apollo as an assist trophy who perceives you, and if you use your most stale move, you explode as if he called you out. What's your favorite video game of all time? Ocarina of Time? Never played it. Super Mario Galaxy? Never played it too. Xenoblade Chronicles? Love it. Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Love it too. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles? Love it. Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Love it 3. There's a lot of great options. For me though, that honor goes to a very special indie game I hold near and dear to my heart. I was messing around on the 3DS eShop and I came across a game starring the coolest character I've ever seen. You wake up in a dark cave with no memory of who you are, where you come from, or why you're in such a place. Uncovering Mimiga Village, you discover that the once carefree Mimiga are in danger and at the hands of the maniacal scientist. Their only hope rests squarely on the shoulders of a quiet amnesiac boy who can't even remember his own name. Take control and learn the origin of the world's power, stop the delusional villain, and save the Mimiga. I'm of course talking about Cave Story, and that mysterious amnesiac boy is Quote, arguably the coolest looking character ever devised. He's a little robot boy in a red hat and shoots guns. Once I made enough money from doing chores, I bought that game and played it non-stop. Multiple playthroughs, trying everything to get the true ending, and saved the life of the just as cool Curly Brace. I remember the first time I got the true ending, me and my family were in a restaurant eating shrimp empanadas, and boy did they taste so good in victory. I think about Cave Story every time I eat those now. Long story short, when it came around to the Smash Bros. Fighter ballot, there was only one answer I could provide. Quote, and he's been my number one ever since. Curly's a must-have too, either as half of Quote's ults or as an echo. I've written up a full moveset of Quote, but the gist of it is I want a character with great aerial maneuverability thanks to the Booster 2.0 as a unique double jump, and the entire arsenal of weapons for various attacks in his moveset. But most importantly, a level up mechanic that increases the power of his weapons the more he attacks, but levels down if he takes damage, just like Cave Story. I'm a piece of shit Rob main. Of course my number one most wanted character would also be an annoying robot projectile zoner with a great recovery. And there you have it, my top 10 characters I want to see in Smash Bros. How many will actually make the cut? Probably not a lot, but a man can dream, can't he? My main goal was to shout out characters I wanted because other similar videos I found were either very repetitive or never mentioned anyone I wanted with glee. Let me know if I scratched a specific itch of yours, and if not, who do you want to see in Smash Bros? I've been Caravan of Noobs from Caravan of Noobs, and you watched the Caravan of Noobs video. Goodbye!